This is Naija Unfiltered on SYMFONI TV. My name is Olawale Oluwade. And my guest today is former Honorable Minister for Communications, Barrister Adebayo Shittu, also an APC chieftain from Oyo State. Honorable Minister, sir, you're welcome to the show once again.
Thank you so very much for inviting me.
Nice to have you. Let's get right into our conversation, sir. Are you pleased with the APC primaries that is ongoing, considering the nationwide backlash and protest from almost everywhere? So much controversies here and there. What's your take on some of these primaries?
Well, I feel very sad. I feel very unhappy, and I cannot believe that the party so dear to my heart will run into all these shenanigans in the name of primary elections. It's most unfortunate. Speaking specifically about my state, Oyo State, we have the misfortune of some people, some misguided elements, using the name of the president to seek to impose candidates on the party and on our members. This went for so long because it left people confused and, unsettled. I'm sure that confusion still persists, and it will certainly negatively affect the outcomes which may be announced as, genuine results of primary elections. I feel so unhappy about it.
Specific cases, sir. Can you mention a couple of specific cases?
Well, I do know that some people who manufactured the crisis came up with a supposed presidentially anointed governorship, nominee. There were about 11 aspirants. At the end of the day, about 8 collected forms for 50 million naira each. If there would be an anointing, you then don't mislead people into spending minimum of 50 million naira to collect forms. But the sad thing is, we were led to believe that it was Mr. President who made the anointment. Only very much lately for us to discover that was a ruse, that the president had nothing to do with nominees for House of Representatives, nominees for Senate, and nominee for gubernatorial election. And a lot of damage has been done consequently, upon those, misguided, actions by those who were determined to impose their own candidates rather than the popular candidates on people. So, in a number of constituencies, in the House of Representatives, about 7 names were imposed. And I can assure you that even after people were made to believe that these were anointees, elections came up, but there were no elections. Names were just written, figures were just conjured, by those who had sufficient influence to do that. And even for the Senate, for instance, in my own senatorial district, somebody was supposed to be the anointee of Mr. President. But we just discovered lately that that was not the situation. And even when it was the situation in so many areas of the senatorial constituency, there were no elections. There were just figures were just conjured and sent as, and with the situation, with the formula in place, for one person, if in my senatorial district, for instance, wards where elections were to take place, more than 200. So if you now expect one candidate to have a nominee unbuyable nominee in each of these wards, you can imagine what the situation would be. And so, because of that, weakness, some people in some places merely wrote figures for their, candidates, for their aspirants who they want to impose. So to my mind, even today, my, reports have it that of the supposedly anointed candidate
For
governorship, there were 6 other aspirants who wrote a petition to the National Secretariat before now of the inadequacies and so on. So I don't know what the party leadership will do about it, but I fear that it would necessarily affect the fortunes of our party during the general election if the situation is allowed to pass through without people being happy, because majority of our people are not happy about the turn of events. And people are wondering, is it still APC where, we so much love, a party with so much love, with so much made sacrifices too? How did it happen that things have turned this way? In fact, in Ibadan, the party secretariat was ransacked, by people who were dissatisfied with the shenanigans going on, and a lot of destructions were made and so on. So to appease people, I don't know, the party has to, look inwards and try to bring everybody on board and seek, an appropriate person who will be acceptable to all. When you hear of consensus, a lot of people will say these are consensus. But I see these people as people who are supposedly educated, but don't understand the meaning of consensus. Because if you are talking of consensus, it means all stakeholders must have met and agreed without exception on one candidate. So where there's no such agreement and you are saying somebody is a consensus candidate, who are the people who consented to the person being the consensus candidate? So it's unfortunate.
Sir, let me ask you. I know you withdrew from the race eventually. Was it before you paid 50 million or you did not pay the 50 million?
No, I didn't pay. I was somebody I respected so much.
Yes.
A senator phoned me to say that, have I seen the message of Mr. President? I said no. He said the president says they should tell me that I should not withdraw from my,
you should withdraw.
I should not withdraw from my position as pro-chancellor of a federal university.
Meaning you should not participate.
Meaning I should not participate. So because I believe in the man, I obeyed. It was much later that I discovered that it was settled. I was deceived, unfortunately. Yes, I was deceived. But I still thank God, because I can't imagine myself, after having paid 50 million for somebody to tell me that another person has been anointed. Why would the party wait for people to pay 50 million before announcing an anointed candidate? Anointing without consultation with the rest of us. It will be most unfair.
Okay, so sir, what's the current state of play now? You said there are 7 of them. All of them paid 50 million. But
8 people, I understand, 8 people paid.
Okay.
Today is supposed to be the day for primary elections.
When already there's
so much division, there's so much crisis that, if the planned imposition succeeds, it will definitely affect the fortunes of our party. Because all of these people who are not happy with the situation are not likely to work for the party.
Let me ask you, sir, because we're seeing this play out in the State House of Assembly, House of Reps, primaries, senatorial primaries, so many of those who worked to produce this new Electoral Act 2020, 2026, they've become the first casualties, the victims. Because the provisions in this new one that says once you participate in a primary, you can't go any other place again. So the majority leader in the House of Reps, Professor Inyobere, Julius Inyobere,
Yes.
Danjuma Goje, former governor, senator, is caught up. So many of them like that. Senator Naija Unfiltered, so many of them, they are all, caught up in this.
Yes.
And like you said, sir, do you still believe, truly, do you sincerely believe this disaffection that has been created, bad blood within the rank and file of the party? What are the chances? How does this, what threat does it pose?
The party still has a chance.
How?
I know there are so many petitions from all over this country. If they sit down and dispassionately consider these petitions and try to make amends by going back wherever there is petition and they investigate these petitions, not by making up their mind that whether anybody writes petition or not, they will do what they would do. Because if you impose the candidate, can you force people to vote? I recall that in 2019, we had a similar situation where somebody was imposed. I was a direct victim of such imposition. Even if I was a minister at that time, I was unjustifiably disqualified. And at the end of the day, our party lost the election. The governor at that time, who also wanted to go to the Senate, also lost because people were unhappy. So I can imagine, God forbid, I can imagine that unless something positive is done, for people to lose elections, whether they are, serving or legislators or not, what is important is for the processes to be sincere and straightforward, not to be opaque. Opacity is one thing which would necessarily negatively affect the fortunes of a party, whichever party. I'm a foundation member of this party. When the party was coming to coalition of different parties, I was one of those few people who represented the CPC in forming the APC. So, and I have since made a lot of sacrifices. During the President Tinubu's campaign to become president, I know the roles I played. Very positive role. I had one, campaign organization which was made up of more than 1,141 support groups under me. A lot of retired generals, a lot of professors were under me. So with all the sacrifices I made, without anybody giving me money, to compensate me for one thing or the other, I still stood by the party up to this moment. But as a human being, I feel disenchanted about the turn of events of the party. And I believe the president has, as a leader of our party, has a duty to step into it if we want the party to continue to dominate Nigerian politics.
Let me ask you, sir. Maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but it's okay. You have a heart. In Lagos State, this culture of imposition of candidates, even the citizen people will go and get form, and then after a while, you now tell them to step down for somebody. It is not wish pass. It is not rumor. Because in Lagos State, for instance, there's this popular candidate, Samuel Joseph, APC member, who was intent on vying for the governorship against Deputy Governor Kadiri Amzat. In a video that is going viral, he said he went to see the elders of Lagos, and then when he got there, he debaled for them, he prostrated for them. The next thing, they brought out a phone and gave him the phone to speak to somebody. When he spoke to her, and then of course, everybody knows President Tinubu's voice. The person hailed him and said, "SYMFONI Gold." That's his nickname. So he said, "Yes, sir." And the person said, "Okay, you know what? We cannot have the party, running divided. So collapse everything you are doing and go and support Amzat." And he only said, "Yes, sir." In that video, his members were crying.
Because, like you said now, you can force someone to step down, but can you force them to vote?
To vote, that is it.
How this culture of imposition? Speak to it, sir, please.
Well, it's unfortunate. Lagos has its own tradition. You know, I mean, over the years, it has its own tradition, and I mean, everybody knows what we say. But I am saying, in your state, if anybody would impose anybody, since he's not the only aspirant, call all of them, whether through begging or through whatever, let them agree. Not for somebody to be announced as the anointed candidate, and for 6 of the 8 aspirants to start writing petitions, justifiable petition, for the party to to look into it. Like I am saying again, if we don't do something about it, I mean, I don't have to be a soothsayer to know that it would certainly affect the party. You see, the important thing in Oyo State is that a lot of other parties have come up with very fantastic, candidates. And so people have a choice. People have a choice, at least in Oyo State. I know that. It has happened before, and God forbid it may happen again, unless our party swallows its pride and revisit all the areas where petitions, have been given, particularly with those who claimed that Mr. President it was who anointed certain candidate. And my question has been, are the rest of us not sons of the president, political sons or children of the president? I mean, if the president would nominate somebody, he would invite us and tell us. We will hear from him, not from third parties. So that's the situation.
What's the next political move, sir?
Well, honestly, the situation of things in the party has made me so disappointed and disenchanted that I discovered that I better go back to doing God's will. I mean, I'm no more interested in politics, if you may appreciate it. I want to do Islamic Dawah now. Because the effort we put into politics, if you put half or a quarter of it into God's work, one will certainly be better compensated than wasting so much time, so much money, making sacrifices, and so on, only for, this magnitude of disappointment to happen.
We know that former Minister for Power, Adebayo, resigned to contest for governorship of your state.
Justifiably.
Exactly, justifiably so. And then we also know that there is a certain Senator Sharafaddin. So which one of them now is the anointed of the president?
Well, the president has not told me he has anointed anybody.
Which one is the one that they abandoned?
But they are banding Sharafaddin as the anointed. I mean, I was deceived into that, but I've since, discovered that the president, with his statements thereafter, said encouraging people to engage in free, fair exercise.
So could it ever be, is it possible the president would have deceived Adebayo to resign from his ministerial slot?
I don't think so.
To go on a red herring?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Well, I don't know, but I don't think so. Like I said, I don't think he would deliberately, because he was not the one who asked Adebayo to resign. Adebayo was interested in contesting for governor, and he did justifiably. So if that was the situation, and you have some party leaders and, impostors giving everybody the impression, deceiving people that it was Mr. President who anointed Sharafaddin Ali, then that's unfortunate. And such people are doing great disservice to our party because it is likely to negatively affect. What's the point in Sharafaddin Ali getting the ticket only for him to lose in the main election? What's the point?
Okay, let's leave that. I think we've dwelt on that enough. Your bosom friend, younger friend anyway, incumbent Governor Seyi Makinde, has declared his intention to run for the presidency in 2027 under a new party, APM, in alliance with with the PDP, the faction of the PDP.
The man
What's your
is
thought on this?
the man is a joker. He's a complete joker. The fact that he got the governorship so cheap through efforts of so many people, even from APC, does not mean that he will be twice lucky. Particularly if you look at other aspirants in APM.
In APM?
Yeah, is it not APM that
Yes.
It's APM.
Are there other aspirants there?
Of course there are.
Like such as?
How you know Peter Obi is there?
No, that's NDC.
And he said, well, let's see how he will make it.
I know Bauchi governor is in APM anyway, but maybe they will pair together. And that's a formidable ticket. But what's your thought? Beyond you saying he's a joker,
I've
what's
said
your
it,
thought?
that's my thinking. That is a joker. Even if he gets a ticket because of, paucity of good, candidates there. What's his national, spread? What is his impact nationally? What has he done? When did he become a national figure? To be entrusted with a national power. I just see him as a joker because, they are all lucky. Most of our governors are lucky that they have a president who has made it so easy for them to get cheap money through, double or more than double monthly education from the federation account. So they think, unlike the Yorubas have an adage, they say, akọ́lówó ọmọdé, àkàrà ni ó fi rà jẹ.
Toto Shedi Ewe. But sir, has Makinde not performed has he not done
At the state
creditably?
level, he has done well, particularly in infrastructure. I always give him credit for that, particularly within Ibadan, not in all parts of the state.
Of course, he cannot cover all parts.
No, but he should cover the state. He's not governor of Ibadan. He's supposed to be governor of the whole state.
Yes.
There's no excuse. And considering the fact of the amount of money that, but for the lack of depth of political wisdom. You imagine a governor who wants to spend 63 billion naira in renovating, not rebuilding, a government house where he has not lived in over the last 6-7 years. So who is forcing him to spend 63 billion to renovate, if not because of a supposed or a proposed, presidential ambition?
What of the area of human development? Education, healthcare, job creation.
I know he pays salaries regularly. I don't know about any multiplication of job opportunities.
Healthcare, primary healthcare, schools. Okay, let's leave this. Now, there are credible allegations that the crisis bedeviling key opposition political parties are sponsored and funded by the powers that be within the APC ruling party and the government, who aim to dismantle this opposition so that they are unable to present viable candidates next year.
This is a very laughable allegation.
You say it's laughable, sir?
It's laughable because he who alleges must prove.
Okay,
They have not provided any evidence.
Brilliant. Now, let me give you two evidences.
Okay.
Number one, during the commissioning of the Nigerian Revenue Service headquarters, the president, bantering with Senate President Godswill Akpabio, said, Senate President, thank you. I'm paraphrasing it. Thank you. I will send you to the other side to go and represent me. When you get there, you scatter them. They are confused. Now, we would have thought that was a joke. But 2 days later, this president's chief of staff, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, while he was at the birthday function of Honorable Leke Abejide, repeated the exact thing to Leke Abejide, that some people came to take your party. Don't leave the party for them. We love what you are doing. We love what you are doing. Stay there. Scatter them. What more evidence do you need, sir?
Well, I don't know. These are jokes to my mind.
Really, sir?
These are jokes to my mind. Because let me ask you, the most scattered, quote and unquote, party today is the PDP.
Yes.
Is it the APC that created the Makinde faction? Is it they who insisted that they should not unite anymore? That they should be at each other's throat? I mean, if I'm in a party, how would an opposition person come and deceive me or come and coerce me into doing something against my own political party? There are people with ambitions. If you look at ADC, the fact that Obi left for another political party, would you say that it is APC which, coerced Obi and Kwankwaso to leave ADC? I mean, there are a lot of things that does not add up, a lot of allegations that does not add up. And you know that if you know that your enemy is in trouble, particularly in politics, it is, easy to make jokes and to deride them because of what is happening to them. Not necessarily that you are the one who created it. In any case, I don't have any such evidence.
Another evidence, so I'm sure you are aware, your younger son, younger bosom friend, Seyi Makinde again, alleged that they were in a meeting with the Mr. President, with Governor Wike, immediately after he became president. And Governor Wike was telling the president that he was promising the president that he would hold down the PDP for him to ensure it does not function, so that the party is unable to present a formidable, candidate next year. Is that not what has played out, sir?
I don't know. I don't know.
A man of your political sagacity, your stature.
Let me tell you. I mean, I don't just, run into conclusions when as a lawyer, I must have evidence for whatever. You know that Wike and Makinde, they work together for Makinde, for Mr. President. Unfortunately, Wike must have wanted to impress Mr. President that it is not enough that they have worked for him, that he would continue to support whoever. I mean, Wike he's not the owner of PDP. He continued with his activities, putting one leg here, one leg there. But people in PDP did not consider it necessary to see anything wrong in what he's doing. So whose fault is it? Is it Wike's fault or the fault of his colleagues in his own party who tolerated whatever he was doing? So as far as I'm concerned, one person is not enough, cannot be too strong to destabilize a political party if the other members of that party are sufficiently vigilant.
Even if that one person has the backing of the president,
it doesn't matter.
Sir, if that person has the backing of state institutions,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter?
He's not the owner of the party. He's not the owner of the party. He's not the one who, feeds all members of the party. I mean, if they all concede to what he's doing, so be it.
Let me ask you on this issue, even though not related to, but since we mentioned Mr. Wike, the incumbent governor of Rivers State, similarly Fubara, who was installed by Mr. Wike, is not going for a re-election. What's your view on this?
He must have taken the wise decision if he knows that he's not sufficiently in control to win a primary election there. I mean, he was not the only Wike's boy in Rivers State. Virtually 99% of members of the House of Assembly, State House of Assembly, are Wike's people. A lot of other people who are not in the House of Assembly, but who are political giants also, are Wike's people. So if he thinks that, look, what's the point in going for a primary election, which I cannot win? Why would I engage in it? Of course, he would have taken the best decision. And I want to congratulate him. I want to congratulate him for taking a wise decision. because even after 8 years, he will still have to leave the position anyway. But now I think he will have a lot of peace. He will be able to enjoy his own peace. And the future is still there for him. He's still a young man. And the future is still there for him.
Okay, sir. Now, sir, there have been 13 attacks, insecurity on Nigerian military bases. This 2026 alone. Of course, brigadier generals, major generals, colonels, countless other regular combatants are dead. Not to talk of so many civilians. And I want to specifically talk about this current case now in Oyo State.
Bombshell.
In Bombshell, Orire, local government. Abduct bandits, kidnappers went. Sir, is the government doing enough? Sir? And I want you to be honest with Nigerians.
Look, I will always be honest. Let me tell you. I believe that much as I appreciate what the Nigerian armed forces are doing, the risk they are taking, I think they are not doing enough, with due respect to all of them. How can trained military men be victims of untrained ragtag soldiers in the name of militias or bandits? I think, with due respect to them, I think they are not doing enough in terms of surveillance. And I also want to appeal to the government. People, the armed forces need much more equipment, drones actually. If we have enough drones, you'll be able to locate these bandits and deal with them decisively before they ever strike. So anytime I hear that bandits have either captured military men or policemen, I feel very sad and disappointed. Because our military and police are supposed to be well trained. These ragtag bandits don't have any training, any proper training. And yet they have been, targeting and successfully eliminating soldiers we have so invested in as a nation. So that's my position.
Let me ask you, sir, still on this matter. How worried are you that, this whole crisis, insecurity, began northeast, then spread to the northwest, and even metamorphosed into banditry. Initially it was terrorism. Now it's banditry, kidnapping, all sorts. Now it's got into Kwara.
It's only to your
Hold on, sir. Entire communities in Kwara are deserted. We're in Oyo State now. Communities in Oyo State now are deserted.
Are getting deserted. Yes.
How worried are you about that?
I am seriously worried. And you see, the problem did not start today. It didn't start yesterday. It is because the Nigerian state or the Nigerian government have not, benefited from the wisdom of our late Premier, Chief Obafemi Awolowo. He had said, if you refuse to train the children of the poor, they would ensure that your own children cannot sleep with both eyes closed. Most of these bandits are, with due respect to Northerners, they are from the north. Even those striking in Bombshell, in Kwara, they are from the north. And how come they have emanated from the north? It is because of the level of abandonment of children of the poor.
Alienation,
marginalization in regard to education. There's nobody you will train, educate properly, and will prefer to go and stay in the forest with gun and all of that. It is because the elites, the political elites, the traditional leadership in the north are more interested in being idolized by children of the poor who are hungry and, completely hopeless. It's very unfortunate. And I think even now, unless we take the issue of free education at all levels, we take it seriously from this moment, in another 10, 20 years, Nigeria will be in a worse situation This is not a prediction, but it's a realistic appraisal, forecast of the situation. Let me tell you, if during the presidential campaign, I was in Kano, and after Friday prayers were going out, and I saw hordes of young children begging.
Last election.
Sometime in 2022. And when I saw some of this, I wanted to bring out money to give to them. And my host said, no, don't give them money. I said, why? These are beggars. He said, if you give them money, they will go and use it to buy drugs. A hopeless person would necessarily get into drug. But it looks like our government is not doing anything. And I'm saying this publicly, with due respect to Mr. President. This Naira fund issue, commendable as it is not the solution. The solution to the safeguard of this nation for the future is to ensure that education is made free and compulsory, even at primary and secondary level. And at the university level, it should be made free. Because the administrative struggle you would need to institute to be able to collect these so-called loans are unimaginable. So let Mr. President, particularly as a progressive, let him institute free education at all levels. We have the resources. It's about prioritization of what we are supposed to be using our money for. Unless that is done, I cannot imagine what the future will hold for this country. There was a case of somebody, a bandit who was captured and was interviewed. And they asked him, how many people have you killed? And he was swearing with God's name that he won't tell a lie. In the name of God, he won't tell a lie. That he has lost count of the number of people he has killed. How do you compensate such a person who should die in prison if you don't eliminate him as, retributive justice?
Through capital punishment.
Through capital punishment. For somebody who kills 10 people, for instance, he has only one life. It's a pity I'm not in power. If I am in power, I'll handle banditry differently from this situation now. I'll handle it differently. And I know, because if there are 1 million bandits in society, if you succeed in eliminating just one, there are no more 1 million. There are no more 1 million. But when you tolerate them, both the Quran and the Bible talk of the retributive justice. When somebody, slaps you on the leg, you slap him back. An eye for an eye.
Yes.
The Quran also talk of, even where the killing is innocent, you still have to pay compensation. But you don't pay compensation when the killing is deliberate.
Murder.
When there's murder, that life must go. So, but it looks like our leaders are not learning, unfortunately. I'm so sorry I have to say this, but that is the truth. Because I'm talking to the Nigerian public now. Yes. And we must talk the truth to ourselves.
So you believe, sir, let me summarize, if I got you correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, that before you talk about amnesty or whatever, they must be put through the criminal justice system.
They must be. That is the law. And that is justice. That is the law and that is justice. It's a pity that, our leader, the way many of them think, it's so odd.
So there are many governors that have death penalties on their desks for them to sign off.
Yeah,
they refuse
but
to sign
it is godly to sign the death penalty. What God does not want is extrajudicial killing. But if the court says this man is guilty and deserves to be killed, it is your duty as governor to sign that bill. But it is irresponsible for governors to refuse to sign bills, when murder have been committed. I mean, is the man you want to sign his bill, is he more important than the man who was killed? That's the question they should ask themselves.
I'm wondering, sir, is that they don't understand the meaning of
don't
deterrence?
know.
Some of us did not toe the path of criminality because when we were young, Barbich in Lagos was a place where they executed Oyenusis and all those people.
Yes.
And my father would buy newspapers and let us see it, that this is the consequence of
You know, I think we are just unfortunate in this country with the type of leadership we have at various levels. People, what should be priorities are not made priorities. That's the unfortunate thing. It's unfortunate.
I must thank you for that very, very honest and very powerful views on that point. Now, sir, some have alleged that President Tinubu is totally disconnected from the real economic condition of Nigeria. Even this insecurity we was talking about, it seems cocooned. So he's not really abreast of the reality of the situation. How do you respond to this, sir?
To tell you the truth, I have not had the privilege of sitting down one-on-one with.
And I wish you did, because I know you to be a
Well,
very.
I also expect even Mr. President, knowing my contributions to his success, to also invite me. If I have made effort to see him and I have not succeeded. The Yorubas have an adage. Wọ́n ló mú nǹkan lọ́wọ́ ó mọ ẹni ó fún. Ṣé wo mẹ́ni tó fún wọn nígbà tí wọ́n ní ìdí kan? The president should also invite some of us. We have information, we have advice to give. But unfortunately, we cannot see him. It's unfortunate, I have to say this. I mean, I love him. I was never his boy before his primary, before his campaign. But I was impressed by the 8 years rule in Lagos. I was so impressed. On my own, I formed a campaign organization, both in Ibadan and in Lagos. And within this, because of my own integrity, my own name, various campaign organizations joined me, more than 1,000. And we worked together. I particularly campaigned in 10 different states. I was in Rivers, I was in Adamawa, I was in Borno, I was in Kano, I was in Niger. And in Yoruba land, we have 6 states. I was in campaigns in 5 of the 6 states. It was only Osun state that I didn't go to campaign. So if I have done that, I appreciate him. He appointed me as a pro-chancellor. But that is not the best that could have been offered in looking for people who have great ideas to contribute to national development. I'm a product of the Awolowo School of Politics for the last 47 years, and I have a lot in my head to contribute, if only to be advising him. But the opportunity is not available.
I'm worried, sir, if a man of your stature, former Minister of Communications of the Federal Republic, former Attorney General in your state, former House of Assembly member,
In 1979,
as way back as 1979-23. So if a man of your stature cannot see our incumbent president.
It's unfortunate I've not had the privilege of seeing him. Not because I don't desire. I had written 3 letters to him, making several proposals over the last 3 years. But unfortunately, I've not seen him. And I must say this so that he would listen and hear that in his own interest and interest of Nigeria, that some of us who have great ideas will be able to see him.
Sir, I want you to be, needless to say, I know you're a very straightforward person. Those who don't know you as much as I do, they're watching you now. Sir, has this government crossed any lines, red lines, whatever that, you feel really troubled, either democratically or in terms of managing the economy, managing institutions?
Well, I have told you, I am number one priority is that government should institutionalize free education at all levels. When I was campaigning, when I started my campaign for the governorship, some people challenged me. They said, "Okay, we hear that you want to do free education at all levels. Where would you get the money?" I asked them, where did Allah get money to do it when he do it several decades ago? They said cocoa. I said, has cocoa now finished? Is cocoa no more available in Nigeria? On top of cocoa, there's also, oil money, crude oil, solid, several other things. So there's enough money in this country to make education free. It is the greatest thing you can give to the poor people in this country. If they don't have to worry about, the education of their children, if children on the streets will be adequately taken care of, I mean, you are contributing to the eventual manpower development of this country. Even free health, full employment. A lot of people, when I wrote it as one of my campaign promises, they were wondering, they could not imagine that you say you are talking of full employment. They say, how can you employ everybody in the government service? I say, you don't have to employ everybody in government service before you succeed with full employment. Number one, if you take, for instance, people who read agriculture, let all graduates of agriculture in this country be given pieces of land, 5 acres, 10 acres, give them tractors, and provide seed money for them. The result of that, a loan will be more than what you are getting from oil now. On the top of it, on others, there's a lot of in entrepreneurial training you can give to jobless graduates. I believe some of these ideas, if we embark on them, within 2 years, we can eliminate graduate unemployment in this country. Once you eliminate graduate unemployment, those people who have become entrepreneurs will be able to engage other less endowed people on one job, labor job, administrative job, and all of that, and so on and so forth. Integrated infrastructure development, agricultural revolution, all of these. These are ideas that we can sell to government. But when you don't have opportunity, I feel sad a lot of times that these ideas cannot see the light of day in terms of implementation.
Some experts have posited that when government officials, elected and appointed, say there's no money to do healthcare, to do education, to do all the... But then these experts counter by saying the money is available, just like you said now, but it is that misprioritization. And they gave examples that the cost of one SUV alone is about 150 million to 200 million.
It is sickening. It is sickening that one person...
If you calculate the number of SUVs we have, or the mansion, like you said, the governor's house in Oyo State, 63 billion for renovation.
It is mad. It is madness. Let me tell you, with due respect to our members in the National Assembly, if you know how much each person earns in a month, not a year, unfortunately, they don't have Oga. The president cannot control them. And whatever budget they make, the president must implement. And how are these more? I mean, they suddenly all become millionaires over a short period. I always tell people, when I wanted to be governor, some people were, pleading with me that I should rather go for the Senate. And I told them, look, I am aware that for anybody who wants money in politics, the National Assembly is the place to go, because without stealing, you get all the money that you need. But I wanted to be governor because I have 7 cardinal programs which I know will benefit the general public. So I would rather go to a place where I don't have to steal, but to do programs which are all left for us and which no other person is talking about since Awolowo left. Unfortunately, even those of us who call ourselves progressives, all Awolowo's programs are now being ignored. So in what way are we contributing to enhancing the lives of the poor masses of this country?
Sir, final question, sir. With all the happenings in the policy, I mean, we've talked about insecurity, party crisis, economic dislocation, the marginalization of majority of Nigerians, totally alienated. What do you see in your political crystal ball happening in 2027? What do you see, sir?
Well, I don't know. It depends on God. God is in total control, and
So it's God now, sir?
It is God.
Wow.
It is God.
Wow.
If anybody says something today, how are you sure you will live till the next day? Because death does not give a notice.
But as a rational person, sir, I mean,
I don't know what will happen. I don't know, because things are still unfolding.
But are you worried? Are you scared about the future of this country?
Well, it gives me hopelessness.
Wow.
Wallahi ta'ala. Hopelessness. That who would come and think the way we are thinking, and who will come and do the things that, would affect the lives.
Sorry, sir, let me ask you this is off the cuff, just random, just came to my mind now. How much money, material things does a man need to live a good life? Because I'm asking, sir, that this craving, this insane...
It's stupid craving.
Sir,
it is stupidity. I am telling you, it is stupidity. Look, me, I eat barely 3 times a day. Barely. So how much do I need to sustain myself?
You can't eat 3 times a day because I'm your son. I don't eat twice a day.
I said barely. Barely.
So if I eat twice, I have a problem.
I said barely 3 times a day. The richest man in this country eats 3 times if he can.
If he can.
How much does a meal cost? I have a house here in Abuja, thank God. I have in Ibadan, I have in my hometown. In my hometown, my house is sufficiently big. But in a year, I stay there for less than 30 days. In a year, I visit the place less than 30 days. So I discover I don't need it. All my children, when they grow up, the females will be married to their husbands. The males are sufficiently professionally established. They don't need that, my house. They don't need it. They all have cars. They don't need my car. So if I have more than one car, what do I do with it? So it is madness and ungodliness for people to want to become multimillionaires. And the unfortunate thing is this. They refuse to realize that the poor man has a stake in the wealth that God has given them or that they have acquired, legally or illegally. God will ask questions. Because God did not give you, whatever God gives you, it's not for you alone. It's for the poor, the wretched, other people in society to spread it. So, but people who are stupid, there's no solution to stupidity. They want to become, and in any case, I don't even quarrel with those who get the money legitimately. But people who break God's laws to acquire wealth. And if they know God, for instance, if you are a Muslim, the Prophet has advised, he said, any flesh nourished by haram food will not enter paradise. How would you eat and your parts of your body will not benefit from it? So if God has warned you, don't eat haram, that is forbidden food, that is stolen food and all of that.
Government money
is part of it. If it's not legitimately with you, you account for it. So, and that is why I now want to go back to try to retrieve people's lives from the dangerous, moves that they will eventually end up with.
1 minute, sir. Speak to Nigerian politicians on the values of doing good for the common good of
Well, the thing I have seen, not only Nigerian politicians, Nigerians generally, a lot of people don't know God. A lot of people don't know why they are on earth, why they were created. A lot of people don't know their responsibilities as living beings. Again, they refuse to remember that death does not give notice. Each human being has an expiry date, just like medicines in a pharmacy has expiry date. This expiry date, God did not show anyone his expiry date. So one may die when he's a year old, one may die when he's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Death again is different from sickness. The fact that you are sick does not mean you will die. The fact that you are not sick does not mean you will not die. So as I am today, God knows that I expect death every minute. Because of that expectation, I try to do right at all times and avoid doing evil at all times. So Nigerian politicians and Nigerians generally should remember God, that the only reason why they are on earth, why God created them, is for them to come and serve the Almighty. So if you are admitted to a university, for instance, and instead of facing your studies, all that you go and engage in is boya elemungeton or cultism. When the date of exam comes, what you will do right to make you pass. Because of this, Nigerians should remember to turn back to God. They should seek to know why they are on earth and what they are supposed to do, and the fact that death will come knocking at any moment. And that is why I want to commit myself. I have written 8 books on Islam. I want to start promoting these books to get Nigerians to read, so that perchance God may, through those books, make them conscious of their responsibilities and, make them turn new leaves.
Thank you so much. Barrister Adebayo Shittu.
It's my pleasure.
Nice having you, sir. And I'm sure we'll see again.
Alhamdulillah. Thank God.
Thank you.
Thank God.